Welcome everyone. So this is the second tutorial. What we have discussed in the first tutorial about the generative AI, right? And then we have discussed what is the RAG based system, why we need RAG also, right? So in the first tutorial, we have seen a good theory, right? In this tutorial, we will do a hands-on. So if you remember from the first tutorial, we discussed about what is RAG, right? Which is Retrieval Augmented Generation. Now in that tutorial we have discussed like if the model does not have capability about your particular domain, right? Suppose you are working in a healthcare department, or if you are working in some financial department, and you have some policies document which is specific to your company, right? Then model by default have not any kind of a capability to give answer about that particular document, right? So there we need to feed the external information to the model, right, so that it can answer those questions. So in this tutorial we are planning to do a hands-on on it, right? So what we will do is we will create a chatbot which will answers the question that user asked, right, about their specific company. Okay, so you can upload any document, suppose your company's policy document if it is allowed, or you can download any document from the internet. So I will tell you each and every step, and let's get started on this. So in the first tutorial we have discussed that okay, whenever we have to implement the RAG based model, we have to do some step, right? So the first step is we have to take the document and load the document, and then we have to divide the document into the smaller chunk. Then we have to store those chunks in a more efficient way, which is called embeddings, right? For this embeddings we discussed about the special type of a database, which is the vector databases, right? And then we discussed okay, whenever the user asks this question, so that first process is called data ingestion, right? So this is a one-time process and we will do it in a hands-on step by step. And then the user asks the question, then we get the most relevant chunk, and then we send those chunks and the question to the LLM. So this is what we have discussed. So what we are going to do is we are going to implement this with the help of Python. So Python, you have to have some basic understanding of Python, all those syntax and all, and you can always take the help of the chat GPT or Claude or whatever you like, right? So these all are the good tools to use. So let's do the hands-on here. So let's implement the step one. Before that, let's try to set up our workspace for the LangChain. So I am using cursor here. If you want to use any kind of a ID, you can use it. So I am using cursor because there is a very big advantage of cursor. Cursor is the AI enrich ID, right? So I will make a different tutorial on cursor, but for now you can use Visual Studio or IntelliJ ID, up to you, whatever you want to use, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a directory first. Okay, so let's quickly create a directory which is called mkdir. I'm on the Mac OS, so if you're Windows you can create it manually as well, but I am creating the mkdir, and let's call it a policy HR policy bot, right? So let's call it HR policy bot. Hit enter. Now I am going to this HR policy bot directory, and let's see what are the files here. So this is empty directory, right? So now it's time to open it. So let's say open, and here if you see I will go to my HR policy bot and say open. So this cursor is exactly like a Visual Studio Code with AI capabilities, as I said, right? So just forget about what this new chat is for now, but you will see the power of this ID when I will code. Okay, so let's create a new file. Let's call it chat.py. So this file will contain all the Python code that I will create, right? So you can install the extension here if it's required, right? So after that, let's go and create the requirements.txt file, right? So requirements.txt file, let's create it. And inside the requirements.txt file, we will need some libraries to code, right? In the earlier tutorial, I have told that there is a LangChain framework, right? So we are going to use the LangChain framework. So if you go to the LangChain website here, which is langchain.com/LangChain, you can read all the documentation which is present here. So go to the doc section and go to the LangChain section for the Python. You can use JavaScript as well, but we are using Python, right? And you can just learn about what this LangChain provides, right? But in this video tutorial, you will actually get an idea like what is LangChain and all. But for now, just consider LangChain is a framework to automate all the process that we have discussed, right? So let's install some libraries. So before that, I'm going to create a requirements.txt and just pasting all the kind of instructions. So let's go and let's create a new file for instructions as well. So let's say readme.md file. So readme.md file which will contain all the instructions, right? So let's change this to readme.md file. Now let's paste it here, right? So in the requirements.txt file, I am going to paste few libraries, right? What those libraries will do, you will see in the code, right? What is the purpose of each of them, right? Now just copy and paste the requirements.txt file in from the GitHub repo. I have already attached the link in the description, right? So you will understand what this PyPDF means, what is the LangChain, what is the LangChain community and all. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a HR bot, right? In the HR bot which will accept a document, right? And from that document it will answer the user's query, right? About your leaves and etc. So when you open the terminal, the first step we will do is to create the virtual environment, right? So if you are on the Mac OS or Windows, run this command which is python -m vnb chatbot env. When you run this command, there will be a virtual folder, there will be a folder that will contain your virtual environment, right? Like this, okay? Once you create the virtual environment, you have to activate it. So I am on the Mac OS, so I am just going and hit enter. You can see that there is a chatbot env virtual environment that is being created, right? Because I have created a chatbot env environment here, right? Now we have created a requirements.txt file, we have created the readme file, we have created the virtual environment, and also we have activated the virtual environment. It's time to install the libraries inside the virtual environment. So to do that, just type pip install -r and requirements.txt file and hit enter. So what it will do, it will install all the libraries that are present inside the requirement.txt file inside the virtual environment. So if you see these libraries, these are the very common libraries, okay, to use any kind of a LangChain base, LangChain, or in order to use any kind of a vector database or a document loader. So let's do these, let's understand the libraries first, right? So what is a PyPDF library? PyPDF library is to load the document, okay? This is the Python library which is able to load the document. This fast CPU library, this is the Facebook AI similarity search library, right? We will talk about it. OpenAI library, LangChain, I have already told you LangChain is a framework, so it has supported few libraries that we have to import, right? Okay, now my libraries are installed, right? So let's clear this and go to the chat.py. So what we will do first, right? So let's zoom little bit here so that you can see it clearly, and let's zoom it like this, okay? Now what we will do first step, what will the first step? Now go to the slides here. You can see that the first step is to load the document, and after loading the document, chunk the documents, right? So the first step is to load the document. So let's do it. Now let's do the step 1, which is loading the file, right? So what I am going to do, .py file, right? I am typing def load document, right? And inside the load documents, what I am going to do is I am going to load my PDF document. If you see auto suggestions here, these are coming from the Cursor AI, so don't worry about that, okay? It is a very great tool, I told you, right? So I created a one function def which is load documents, right? And now let's press enter and type loader PyPDF loader. Now this PyPDF loader is nothing but what? It's coming from this PyPDF library, right? So let's go back here, and what it is asking, the path of the PDF file. So the path of the PDF file is data/test.pdf, but we don't have any data folder. So let's create a data folder real quick. Inside the data folder, let's create a file which is called test.pdf. but right now we don't have any file. So what we will do is we will go to the internet. I have already downloaded the hr.pdf file on my desktop. So what I will do is I will use this file in order to fetch it. So inside the data.pdf, what I am going to do is I am going to paste the file here. Okay, so let's do that. So inside this file which is on the desktop, let's take that file, replace it. Now let's try to drag it on the cursor. Okay, so here let's go and drag it. So this file has been dragged inside the HR data folder, right? Well, I already have the extension to view the file on cursor. That's why I'm able to see this file here. Okay, so now the first step that we have done, right, which is to load the document. So let's import the related import also, right? So this PyPDF loader is coming from the PyPDF loader. So now this is the step 1. So let's mention this is the step 1, which is load the document, right? Now what is the next step? Next step, if you see on our slides, what is the next step? To load the document, and after that to chunk the document, right? So what I am going to do is I am going to split this document into the multiple smaller documents, right? So let's do that, right? So which will be our step 2, right? So the step 2 will be, if you see, it is giving you auto suggestion that if you want to split the document into chunks, use the split document here. So let's create a step 2, right? So let's create the function split document, taking the document, and after taking the document, it is using the recursive character text splitter class, and then it is dividing the document into the chunks. Really, this step, right? It is dividing the document into chunk. I will try to run it and I will tell you like how this is working. Okay, so let's go here. Now let's first of all let's create a function so that we can test it also. So I am going to create a main function, and inside the main function, if you see, I am going to load the document, and then after loading the document, I am passing the same document to the split document function, right? And I am printing the chunks, right? So what basically we are doing is we are trying to see that how step 1 is working with the help of LangChain and Python libraries. So let's see that. So I created a main function already, right? So we will go to the load document function first, where we are loading the document. After we get the reference of this document, we are passing the reference of the document into the split document function. And split document function is what it is doing. It is taking the full document, divided into the chunk size of 1000. Now what is a chunk size? Chunk size is that, okay, suppose we have a long document, right? Suppose of a 2000 or let's say 5000 word, right? So what I am saying to my split document function, whenever you actually traverse the document and you divide the document with the number of character as 1000. For an example here, if this document is of 5000 line, and when it comes to my line number 11, what it will do is it will divide the document into the 1000 character long document. So each chunk will be of 1000 character. So the first chunk will be of 1000 character, the second chunk will be of 1000 character, third chunk will be of 1000 character, right? So that's why this chunk size is 1000 here. I hope it is clear. Now what is chunk overlap? Now if you see, when it divides the chunk into 1000 character, I don't want to lose the information because of this 1000 character limit, right? So what I am trying to tell you, let me just create a new file and tell you. Suppose let me create an example for you. Okay, so suppose there is this example. Okay, this is a text, right, which is saying this is the first sentence and it explains the context, and this is the second sentence. Build on that, it is very important, right? So suppose if I say, okay, the chunk size is 10 word, right? So what will happen? It will divide the chunk 1 and chunk 2 having those 10 words, right? But because of this chunk 1 and chunk 2 here, right, these two are very independent chunks. They don't have any information about each other, right? So if we do the overlap of 3 words, right, which is this is the first sentence, it explains the context here, and now if I repeat these words into the next chunk also, when I'm dividing it, it explains the context and the next sentence build on that. Now this chunk 1 has the and chunk 2. Now the chunk 2 has the contextual information about the chunk 1, right? Because it explains the context. The second chunk built on that, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is to just not to lose the context information during the every split. What we are doing is we are actually leverage the overlap functionality, right? So the last three word of chunk 1, it explains the context in this case, are the first three word of chunk 2, right? So it is used to preserve the chunk here, right? Preserve the context here actually. Maybe you have a large file, right? Now if we divide the large file into the smaller chunks, now every chunk should have information about, you know, what first chunk is talking about, correct? So that's why this overlap will come to the picture. So enough information about the overlap. Let's go back here. So we are doing the chunk overlap, and with the help of the split document function, we are dividing the big document into the smaller chunk. Okay, now let's test this main function up to here. So now let's try to run this. Okay, so let's try to run this python chat.py and enter. Okay, now if you see the output, this output is actually the chunked output. So the whole document that you are seeing here, right, is a full document. Now it's divided into the smaller document. Now you can, you know, understand this kind of output. You can just copy and analyze what actually this output is. But this is actually the content which is divided into the smaller chunks, right? Okay, so far so good. Now what is the first step is to load the document and split the document. So up to here, if you see our slides here, up to this part and this part we have done. Now we have to move to the step 2, right? So I will discuss about the step 2 in the next tutorial. So see you in the next tutorial, and please follow and like. Thank you.